Tualatin less than 24 hours after the Portland Trail Blazers suffered a stunning sweep in the first round of the Western Conference playoffs. Neil Olshey spoke at length about the team's season, roster and long-term trajectory. Olshe, the Blazers' president of basketball operations, answered questions from reporters at the Blazers' practice facility in Tualatin, where the team held its annual end-of-the-season exit interviews. During a back-and-forth session that lasts nearly 30 minutes, Olshe addressed fans who want a roster overhaul, discussed Coach Terry Stott's job, pledged not to overreact, and much, much more. Here's a transcript of the interview. Does the first-round sweep change your thinking about this team in season? It doesn't change anything about the season. I think we've got to bifurcate those two things to a certain degree. We lost 4 games coming into the playoffs and that didn't change anyone's overall outlook on a macro level. I think the playoffs brought a couple issues to bear in terms of teams that can go small. I think there are some things we need to address. But playoff series are always going to illustrate deficiencies. That's what coaches do. They get to play you 4 different times. They find your weaknesses, and we'll address those in the off-season. Regardless of whether we got swept, we lost 4-3, we get into the second round, nothing is going to go unexamined in the organization. It's just a matter of, I think, this one was so extreme, I don't want to overreact to one unfavorable matchup and a team that just played outstanding basketball. You just can't do that. You can't react to, well, now we have to overreact to when we play this style of basketball. We're going to do everything we can to upgrade the roster, like we always do. But we're also not going to lose sight of the success we had throughout the course of the season, and the growth that we had. You say unfavorable matchup, do you mean Anthony Davis or something else? I mean the team. How stunned were you with the way everything unfolded? I think we all are, actually. I think that was the recurring theme in the exit interviews. Nobody has any plane flights scheduled today because nobody expected it to happen. But it did. We had our chance in Game 1. We had our chances in Game 2. Clearly Game 3 was a big setback, and then last night, same thing. I was really proud of the way the guys came back on the road in the fourth quarter, made it a one-possession game multiple times. I think stunned, I think disappointed. But I think you also have to keep perspective. We were the 3 seed. We were a game ahead of New Orleans. We split with them during the season. The one time that we beat them is constructed, when they did play small with Nikola Mirotic at 4 and Anthony at 5. I think we won by 1 and Damian Lillard had 40 and he had 20 in the fourth quarter. So it took a gargantuan effort on the road to get that one. We were far more conservative in our expectations of that series than I think the pundits were that all picked us to win it. Because I think we knew just how good they were and how unique they're with playing Anthony at 5. How do you view this year? Is a success in your eyes? I don't know. Is it a success in your guys' eyes? Questioner responds, for me personally, I think the way it ended takes a lot away from it. Okay. And that's fair. And I think you have to look at it 3 ways. You have to look at the regular season, where we had great success. We had the 3rd seed, which was the highest this organization's been seeded in 2 decades. I think the postseason couldn't have been worse. I don't know that you can even have a happy medium. I don't think you can look at it as one consistent theme. I think you really have to look at them separately. I think there's a lot of positives we need to take away from the regular season. And then there's a lot of issues we need to address based on the result of the very abbreviated postseason. But I don't even know that the postseason, honestly, was long enough to blend it in with the other 82 games. The West is so strong. How hard is it to take that next step? Ask the guys that finished 4 through 15. Right? I think we sat in this room last year, and last year we crept into the playoffs. And the question mark was, can we ever be a team that hosts a playoff series? Can we get home court advantage, finishing in the top 4? How do you go about doing that? We did it with internal growth, excellent coaching. We did it with teamwork. We did it with guys that play well together, that play in a system. We did it with guys that contributed in different areas. Guys were asked throughout the year to step up, and also to step back at times. That's how we did it. And we'll continue to do that. We're building a team. I don't have all the answers for you today. Everybody wants to know that there's some magical free agent. There's some incredible trade. There's some draft pick that's going to revolutionize your franchise. And a lot of times you don't know where the help is coming from. Some of it is how you change the lineup, someone that you don't expect to step up. Who would have thought Al-Farouq Aminu was going to spend most of the season shooting 40% from 3? But he did, right? The reinsertion of Mo Harkless into the starting lineup. We go 17-3 with Mo as a starter. Yusuf Nurkic started out slow. Played well. It takes some time. We lost last night. Nobody expected it. Nobody anticipated it. It happened. And we've now got 10 weeks to kind of address and build a team heading into free agency and the summer and trades. We'll do what we always do. We'll draft, trade, player development, free agency, and we'll build the roster. There are fans who are calling for sweeping changes. Do you think the roster needs tweaking or significant changes? The same people that wanted sweeping changes last year? Questioner responds, I don't know. I don't know them personally. I just hear from them all the time. Right. Great. Well, last year was going to take sweeping changes because we got swept by Golden State in the first round and all the alarmists overreacted. Golden State went on to sweep Utah and sweep San Antonio and basically win in 5 without breaking a sweat against Cleveland. And everybody overreacted. So let's be a little bit measured in our reaction to the fact that we ended up against a tough matchup with the best two-way player in the NBA, having a career series. Jrue Holiday is healthy and he played phenomenal basketball. It happens. But this idea that we need sweeping changes. Where were all these people that wanted sweeping changes 10 days ago? Where were they? They were the ones bouncing off the walls in the Moda Center when we got the 3rd seed for the first time since 1999-2000. So it's our job to be measured and not overreact. Because when you overreact is when you make mistakes. Nobody thinks this roster is a finished product. Everybody understands it is a work in progress. But it's a work in progress. Relative to people back in December who were complaining that we weren't going to make the playoffs and we were in purgatory because we weren't going to make the playoffs and we weren't going to pick high enough. Right? That was the rallying cry. Then it was, oh my god. They're going to blow the 3rd seed because they're going to lose all these games. They're not even going to get home court advantage. They overreacted to that. You know what? If the series goes 6 or 7, if game 1 goes differently when we had the ball down 1, who knows where this series goes? But it didn't. But, again, you don't take 4 games and overreact and diminish what you accomplished over 82 games. The foundation is built during the regular season. There are always extraneous factors that go on in a playoff series. We're the first ones out, so this will be heightened and there will be an amount of attention paid to this series until other teams start going out. And then they'll all need sweeping changes. Does the way you finished the regular season set a new bar for the team and expectations moving forward? The bar is always the same. You're trying to be a factor in the playoffs. You're trying to be a team that can advance in the playoffs and see what happens. And you try to put the best team possible on the floor. And you're trying to do that while growing, not just looking for help externally, but growing from within. I thought this was the most competitive roster in the 3 years that we kind of entered into a rebuild. I thought Damian showed great leadership throughout the course of the year. I think we probably had more ebbs and flows this season than we did in the first 2 years. The first 2 years, we just started off really slow and made runs late. And it was kind of almost 2 distinct seasons. This one was up and down throughout. We had to face a lot of adversity throughout the year. I think, sometimes, people get too high and they also get too low. When all is said and done, weeks down the road, we'll look back and realize we lost in the first round. And whether it's 4-3 or 4-0 isn't going to change the fact that, in the regular season, a lot of the teams that are playing in the playoffs right now, we either swept, split with beat. And we'll realize how competitive we were, so you trust the team that you saw in the regular season, more than the team we just saw get swept. I would rather trust a team I saw over 82 games than a team I saw over 4 games. Can you address the job Coach Terry Stotts and his staff did this year? What do you expect from a coaching staff? That your players get better. That there was internal growth. Are you competitive every night? Did you improve on areas where you struggled in the past? One of the things people talked about when we sat in this room a year ago, was everyone complained about our defense. It was 26th in the league. It finished ranked 8th this year. Right? That's growth. Young teams take longer to develop a defensive mindset. It's harder for young teams to defend well. Usually veteran teams are those defensive teams. Offensively, I think we actually took a little bit of a step back this year because there was such a focus on the defensive end. The defensive rebounding carried us during some of the early parts of the season, when the offense struggled. Terry can speak more to that. But there's never a question about coaching or whether we were or not prepared going into a game. That was stipulated. Like I said, we ran into a well-coached team with a superstar player that plays both ways, that played a unique style, relative to how they played the first 3 times we played them during the regular season. They played it really well. And I think the one thing they did a phenomenal job of was, they imposed their style of play on us. They came out victorious as a result. In light of the financial restrictions you have this summer, what vehicles do you view as the most likely to help the roster? It's always the same. It's draft, trade, player development, free agency. People get caught up in financial restrictions. First of all, half the league is at or will be above the salary cap next year. And it's a result of the cap spike from 2 years ago, increased spending. That's the way it is. But there's a million ways to build a team, and I think everybody gets caught up in thinking there's some magical solution because you have cap room or you have an exception. That's not necessarily true. If you look at how many teams got better this year because of trade or draft-related moves versus teams that got a free agent to come into their cap room, the teams that did the former improved greater than the teams that just signed the free agent. That's how it works. So, like I said, guys are going to continue to get better. There's still a lot of upside on the roster. We have our first-round draft pick. We'll be active at the draft as usual. We've been active and opportunistic in trades. We found value players. We'll continue to do that. One of the things I'm disappointed in from a narrative standpoint from this whole year that nobody picked up on was this: how important the quality of your players and building a team is to winning and losing basketball games. Everybody wants to look at a vacuum at specific players. This player, this player, this player. His numbers, his numbers, his numbers. And what nobody looked at was the chemistry, the camaraderie, the teamwork, the way this group stayed together. We'd lose 3 or 4 in a row, they never fractured. It frustrated guys in the media because you would ask Dame or you would ask CJ McCollum, they'd say, "We're fine. We're fine," and nobody wanted to believe that we were fine. Yet somehow, we ended up with 49 wins and we were the 3rd seed in the Western Conference. They believed it. They're the ones that have to believe, and they believe in each other and they elevate each other. It's one of the things we talked about with Dame's leadership. Dame's great ability from a leadership standpoint is to get guys to elevate their play to a level they can play at. By increasing everybody's level of play by 5, 10, 15%, because of the empowerment he gives them, in aggregate adds another player, another impact player. I think that's the hardest thing at times. This isn't NBA 2K. The teams with, across the board, the highest profile names on their teams aren't necessarily the best teams. And it comes down to coaching and culture and organization and team building and character. And that's what you saw during the ebbs and flows of our year. It never fractured in here ever. Not once. You never heard one story about it fracturing. Relationships, player to player, player to coach, the organization, organization to coach. Never. Not once. You never heard that. And that's what kept everybody together. And that bond is why, even losing in 4, will give us something to build on instead of something to regret. Have you spoken with owner Paul Allen since the season ended? And what was his message? Yeah, I was with Paul last night. His message was, we had a great regular season. He was proud of the way we competed. He was proud of the fact that even last night, when we got down 15, we never stopped fighting. But based on the regular season, we had larger aspirations than a first-round playoff exit. And we need to find a way to get better. How will you approach Nurkic's free agency? We can't. You know we can't discuss free agency. He's a restricted free agent. We'll handle that when free agency starts. He's not the only restricted free agent on the roster. Pat Connaughton is restricted. Shabazz Napier is restricted. Ed Davis is unrestricted. So we've got some guys we have to deal with internally. And we'll handle that. Right now, we're trying to get through our exit interviews with our guys and check in on them, make sure they have what they need heading into the off-season, and set the plan for the young guys as far as what we expect from them in the off-season, prep them for summer league. And in a couple weeks, we'll get to Chicago and start working on the draft. Do you share Portland's love for Ed Davis? Yeah, everybody does. I signed him. Another guy happy that he left LA and came to Portland, along with me. So there you go. Do you remain steadfast that you're not going to break up the Lillard and McCollum core? Yeah. When 27 other teams aren't jealous of our backcourt, then I'll start worrying about it. The other thing I said to somebody last night, they were asking, can you win with 2 6'3" guards? We just got swept by a team that started 3 guards under 6'4". So I don't know what our 2 guys have to do with it. You seem so positive about a team that was just swept out of the playoffs. What gives you so much optimism about this roster and this nucleus? The growth. I think we had an 8-game improvement over last year. I think if you ask anybody, we gave away some games this year. I don't even know that the record is 100% reflective of what it was capable of. We did have some ebbs and flows and lost some games that, I think, if you look back on the schedule, you would have checked off as wins. And then we also won some games I don't think anybody expected us to win. I think when you look at how competitive we are with the teams that were in our conference, that were in our division, that are playing at a really high level right now, and how we performed against them, knowing internally the amount of work that they put in. And I think more than anything, the biggest question mark we've all had that goes beyond whether or not we have 2 guards on our backcourt under 6'3", would Nurk become a player or anything else, the biggest question was always, can this group, as constructed, have an impact defensively? And I think from a coaching standpoint, from a player commitment standpoint, to get buy-in from guys that, quite honestly, other than Farouk and maybe Mo Harkless, are really guys that probably came into the league as offensive players. To get that kind of buy-in from an individual and team concept, that's why we did play so well on the road until this series, because the defense traveled. I think the coaches believed. But I don't know that we believed we could, with this group, have a top 10 defense for the entire NBA season. And we did. And I think there were even guys looking at it analytics-based back in November, December, wondering if it was sustainable or if it was a byproduct of a soft beginning of the schedule. When you can be in the top 10 all year over an 82-game schedule with a predominantly offensive-oriented roster, it's a testament to the job the coaches did. And it's also kudos to the players that they were able to adopt a totally different mindset as two-ways guys as opposed to just trying to outscore people on the other end of the floor. Mo Harkless mentioned to us how important you guys said he was to the team. Is that one thing you learned? I give credit to Zach Williams, who runs our analytics, because he's probably the biggest Mo backer. Whenever things were down, all the numbers kept showing how important Mo was to us. Last year, when we finished strong throughout the year, we were at our best with Mo and Farouk at 3 and 4. It got even better when Nurk came in. I think we saw that this year. Mo admittedly got off to a slow start. So did Nurk. We were sluggish early. We had a soft schedule that we didn't really take advantage of and guys weren't playing at their level. And Terry reinserted Mo into the starting lineup. Evan was dinged up a little bit with his calf strain, so he was on limited minutes. And we went on a 17-3 run. So Mo is a high-impact guy for us. He gives us a lot of defensive versatility. He can score in transition. He makes a lot of things at 3-4 switchable with Farouk. He can guard 1 through 4. And he's probably the best athlete on the team. He is. He's a linchpin to a lot of things we do, and I think a lot of the guys who are in the know, when Mo went down late in the year, there were guys that knew this was going to be a huge loss for us. That's not using injury as an excuse. That's just answering your question about how important Mo playing at the level he's capable of. You forget, we lost one of our better defenders, but Mo was also second in the NBA in three-point field goal percentage after the trade deadline behind Doug McDermott. He was shooting 54.5%. He went from shooting 31 to 41.5 on the season. I think Mo ended up leading our team in three-point shooting for the regular season. That's a big deal. Everybody's looking for 3-and-D guys. Well, there you go. And he's still only 24 years old. I think we'll see a more consistent Mo next year, realizing he needs to come in day one and play at the level he's capable of. How would you evaluate Zach Collins' growth and importance moving forward? I think Zach played really well for us. I think he did what he was asked to do. He had an impact defensively. We finished the regular season #1 in rim protection. A lot of that was Nurk and Ed. But a lot of that was Zach at 4 as well. His length, his ability as a rookie to learn and establish a reputation with referees that he knew how to play verticality without picking up fouls that he had done early in the year in Summer League. I also think he did a lot of things for us as a team in terms of floor balance because he shared the floor with Ed. It was one of our most productive lineups. But he played far away from the basket. He got to three-point range probably earlier than we even would have liked. I don't know if he was ready for that. But it opened up the court. Let Ed be a dive guy. Let Ed be an offensive rebounder. And I think what he did most importantly, as a 10th pick in the draft, he had to earn his stripes. It wasn't handed to him day one. He joined a playoff team, a returning playoff team, a team with playoff aspirations, and other guys got opportunities before him at that position. Caleb Swanigan got a shot. Noah Vonleh got a shot. Farouk was a starter. So when he got on the floor, it was with the backing and endorsement and respect of the veterans in the locker room that he had earned it. And that's a bigger hurdle to climb than just playing minutes. Anybody can get minutes in the NBA. One of the things that will accelerate Zach's growth. Not only did he earn it, but his minutes came playing on a team playing for something other than just getting their rookies minutes. And I think that gives him a foundation to build on. Joe Freeman, jfreeman at Oregonian.com, 503-294-5183, @BlazerFreeman.